What's good, everybody? This is Ryan Johnson with MoneyBass.com. All right, guys, what is going on? We have a banger set up for today. We have the man himself, Randy Blaukat, checking in. We're going to expose some truth behind this controversy that you guys have been hearing about for weeks, for days, for months, actually for years. It's been going on for a while. So without further ado, we have the man himself has qualified for 18 Bassmaster Classics and FLW Cups. Just have to make sure I put some respect on his name. He has won 2 Bassmaster Top 100, 150 events, over $2 million in winnings, and is still winning on the YouTube side of things in a career that spans over 40 years, guys. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring up our partner, Randy Blaukat. What is going on? How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, man, good to be in the house with MoneyBass. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, yeah. Let me hit the horns for you one time. All right, there we go. There we go. So how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Just dropped the kids off at school, went and got a good workout in, and heading back to the house here, man.
Oh, man. So you're still doing your thing in the gym too. So you had I guess a previous career in kind of the martial arts field or something like that, right?
Yeah, my when I moved to Springfield, Missouri, my wife's a competitive power lifter. So we
Wow.
got
Okay.
into the powerlifting gym here in Springfield. So I got to keep up with her. At least I can't keep up with her. She can squat 450 and bounce and bench 240. So
Whoa.
I got some stiff competition up against her.
I bet. Wow, I did not know that. So she's in competitions.
Yeah, she's been in competitions quite a bit the last 2 years, and she hurt her knee this fall, so she's sort of been rehabbing that and sort of changing her workouts. But yeah, she's a hardcore, man.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
she also boxed professionally when she was younger too, so she's been on the athletic side for a long time.
Wow, now that is definitely impressive. And so, did you actually compete in competitions whenever you
Yeah,
were into martial arts and everything? Okay.
yeah. When I was in my 20s, I was in a dojo in Joplin, Missouri, and there was a tournament circuit here in Missouri. So we traveled around for like 3 years at different, they were Japanese karate tournaments back then. It was very similar to the Karate Kid type tournaments. I mean,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
that was the genre. This was back in early 90s, I guess it was. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
you know, I guess I probably competed in about I don't know, a dozen different tournaments over the course of 3 years with that. So
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. I that was in Joplin, and I moved to Kansas City, so I left my dojo and sort of got away from it after that. But I really enjoyed it, and I've been picking it up the last year and a half so with some jujitsu here in Springfield, Missouri. So I
Oh man.
enjoyed that transition there.
Okay. Wow. So you're active in jiu-jitsu right now?
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're staying in shape. Okay. All right. Because I noticed in some of your videos you say, "Yeah, I'm old and I forgot my time has passed," but you're still out here doing your thing. You can't really be saying that. You're still out here doing your thing.
Man, you got to stay. Like I said, my wife's 42, and I've got a 6-year-old son. So, man, when most people are sort of winding down, I got to step it up, man. I got to keep after it and keep going, man.
Hey, I mean, you're giving me some motivation. It sounds like I may need to do the same thing. So, I'm glad that we mentioned the martial arts side of things because I have a little something that I want to show to you and see if this looks familiar. And just keep in mind, I'm gonna keep it rated YouTube. Does that
Oh man, where
does
did
that
you find that at?
does that look
You did some
familiar?
digging there, man.
so
Dang.
so we're gonna flip to, like I said, this is YouTube. So, but before I show, you tell us a story about how this came about. I just want to show everybody this picture of what made me think about the martial arts thing. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. All right, here we go. Let me see if I can get this lined up for everybody to take a look at. Let's see. Right there. Can you guys see that right there?
Yeah,
Who
that was in a hotel room down at Gainesville, Georgia, I think, where they did that interview down there.
Yeah, so that is a very nice looking sidekick right there. You have the form perfected and everything. All right. And so So you know what I'm flipping to next. And like I said, this is rated YouTube, but I kind of fixed it up a little bit so people can kind of get the idea of what happened. So there we go, folks. So I want to hear the story because from what I hear, you may have been kind of tricked into that scenario.
Yeah, I can give you the whole story on that. Back then, it was Ann Lewis was the communications director for Bassmaster back in the 90s, there, the early 90s. And there was that Details magazine, which sort of like GQ magazine, if you're not familiar with it. It's like a men's fashion magazine out of New York. And they wanted to do an article on bass fishing out there. And back then in 92, I was sort of like Joe Thomas and myself were sort of the quote poster boys, you know, like you have now with some of the younger guys.
Right.
So they gave me the opportunity to do that article with Details. And it was sort of cool because the guy that wrote the article, he had just gotten done doing that interview with Sharon Stone, who had just done that movie Basic Instinct. So he'd spent like 2 months with Sharon Stone right before he did that interview. And then he traveled with us for like 6 months on the circuit to try to get a feel for that, what it was all about. So that encompassed almost the whole season, him traveling there doing that article.
Oh, okay.
But it was sort of like a deal where I didn't really like the way it turned out, because when they wanted to do the article, they wanted to sort of do it on sort of me being a nature boy and fishing.
Right.
And then they turned it into this sort of like this, you know, this like Rick Clunn, me and Rick Clunn versus another group of fishermen. There were a lot more, you know, mild mannered and, you know, not quite. Rick Clunn and I were sort of like out in left field as far as our viewpoints on fishing and our connection to nature versus the more traditional angler out there. And they sort of made it like a us versus them. And that's
right.
I had no idea it was going to turn out like that.
Yeah, they'll get you like that sometimes. You never know.
Yeah. I didn't even know until the article came out that's what they were going to do. They just completely kept it from us on that. But anyway, the picture, after they had, you know, done the article with us, they came back like a month later down to Lake Lanier, Georgia, to do a photo shoot for the magazine. And the guy that was doing the photo shoot, he had also done that photo shoot with Sharon Stone. And he said, man, the best picture for this article is going to be, we're talking about you being one with nature and being part of the environment. You know, we want to silhouette you with no clothes on in your boat looking out in the lake. Then they said, you won't even be able to tell it's you. I mean, because it'll be backlit and silhouette. And of course, it turned out broad daylight. But that was a pretty big hoo-ha back in the day, man. 30 years ago. Probably not as much now, but.
Man, so they set you up twice. So first they set you up, kind of pitted you against the other anglers.
Yeah.
And then they said they were going to do a silhouette picture and just showed it full blast, full color. And for everybody that's watching, I kind of added that strip on there because there is nothing covering up anything on the picture.
Well, it got a little out of hand because there was back during when we did that article, it was like Rick Clunn and I were sort of on a roll. We were both doing really good in the tournaments. And then they tried to construe it like one of the other anglers said that Rick Clunn and Randy Blaukat were sacrificing live chickens in order to drum up the spirits to do good in tournaments. So it got a little out of hand with that.
So it sounds like how people are saying the drama, the controversy and things like that. It seems like it's been around for years. It's not something new, you know what I mean, to kind of get interested in different topics.
Yeah, it is. And it was a lot back then. It was harder to be yourself because Ray Scott, you know, he ruled Bassmaster with an iron fist back then. And he didn't want anyone getting out of line. I mean, if you weren't wearing the right clothes, he'd call you out on it. I mean, if you couldn't get away with nothing back then. It was like they wanted this little picture perfect, you know, example of what bass fishermen should be in their mind. And I think it's so much better now that people can be themselves a little bit more, even if they're rough around the edges.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it adds a little spice to the whole thing. You know, sometimes sitting there watching somebody cast 100 times and not catching anything isn't the most exciting thing. So you have to add a little flair to it every once in a while.
Yeah. But yeah, that was quite an experience during that, for sure.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, so let's see. We have a nice little crowd checking in. So for the guys that are checking this and going to watch this on the replay, it will be available for people to watch it on the replay in case anybody has to head out, because I know this is not our regular time. But let's go ahead and cut into the meat of the program. What does everybody really want to know about? So the truth behind the controversy. So on YouTube, we know that people are allowed to get out here. They're able to get out here and kind of speak their mind on different topics and just kind of put things out there from their perspective, which is a good thing. And you can either agree or disagree. And so for me, I kind of like hearing both sides of all the stories, this side, that side, the in-betweens and everything, because it's always for me a chance to learn a little something. So of course, you know that I use a lot of electronics, and for facing sonar, I kind of got into it late in the game. But whenever you gave me the shout out on your channel, I was like, hey, look at that. Randy's over there shouting out me, and I use for facing sonar. So the question is, how do you really feel about forward facing sonar? And I know you call it live scope, so we can call it live scope, but how do you really feel about live scope?
Well, first of all, I don't have anything against people that use it. I mean, a lot of people say that like I'm attacking people that use it. I have never attacked anybody for using it because I understand the tournament organizations have forced anglers into the position that have to do that. But here's sort of my evolution on how I came to be about that, because like I said, I've been using electronics since for 50 years, and I've seen that whole process of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when side imaging and down imaging came out, I still was like, well, it's just like I wasn't like against it, but I sort of started feeling it's like, man, that's sort of, that's sort of, in my opinion, starting to cross the line a little bit as far as just on the sporting aspect of it. And then Panoptics came out,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole forward facing sonar started evolving. And it was a slow progress. It was a slow process. It's like when it's been out for quite a while,
Right.
and you once in a while you'd see somebody do okay on it. It's like I remember there's one of the guys that first had it did pretty good up at Lake St. Clair with it, but no, everybody just sort of thought, well, whatever. That was just like an exception to the way we fish out there. And then gradually, as they improved that technology and people started using it more, you slowly started to see it creep up there and have more and more and more of an impact in the tournaments. And the thing that really got it to me is like when Patrick Walters won that Bassmaster Elite Series down at Lake Fork.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? When was that? What, 4 or 5 years ago? Was it that long, or maybe not that long?
Yeah, I kind of remember, but
Well,
I don't know the details of it.
that was the first tournament I remember where that was like, man, that is a completely different world of fishing, the way he just won that tournament. And
Okay.
then all of a sudden, like the last 2 years, there has been a total explosion as far as how many tournaments get won on it, and even on every level. I mean, I fish the BFLs here in the Ozarks, and
Mm-hmm.
I got buddies that fish all the buddies local circuits, and literally every dang tournament, or 99% of them, are getting one with forward facing sonar. And I saw what was happening as far as how the sport was morphing, into this entire forward facing sonar domination. And then I started thinking about, okay, we've came this far just in a couple of years. What is this going to look like 10 or 20 years from now?
Right.
And that is what really got me on this bandwagon to try to get some type of limitations on it, because it's not just the tournament anglers that are using it. I mean, every species, every guy that fishes for crappie around here in Missouri's got forward facing sonar and a big mount on the front of their boat out there. And then I just felt that we lost so much as far as what bass fishing used to be, as far as the tradition and the history and the heritage of it,
Right.
sort of morphing it a little bit. And then you start getting into the sustainability, how it's going to impact the fisheries. Nobody really knows, because there's really no legitimate data on it. They've had some surveys, angler surveys, and data comparisons on tournament weights, but it's pretty much inconclusive. And it's just sort of like every other sport that's out there. It's like one of the things that appeals to a lot of people as far as different sports, football, baseball, golf, whatever out there, basketball, is you got some type of equipment limitations that sort of gives you a baseline.
Right.
And that's not the case in fishing. It's like we don't have any baseline anymore. And it goes into the dozen or so different reasons I talk about it. But it's something that gradually came to the point where I am now. And I've just got my heels dug in on it. I'm just convinced in the long term that it's not good for the sport.
Gotcha. So do you feel like with each step of the way, like with the flasher, then what was next? Sonar, then we had down scan, side scan. Do you think if you back up each step and just start adding those back into place, like when the flasher came out, I'm thinking that there were probably guys at that time saying, hey, this isn't, this is going a little too far. This is giving somebody additional information that they would not have had otherwise without this electronic device. And then when we step to sonar and down scan, kind of the same thing. And then I remember when side scan came out, that was like the big thing, because now instead of having to make multiple passes across something, you could just run down a cove with side scan and shoot the docks on both sides and find brush piles, find rocks, and find everything. So do you think at each step of progression that there has been pushback, and that this is just something, the next step in that, in that progression?
Yeah, I started out with the old flashers, and then we transitioned into the 2D sonar, and they had the paper graphs for a long time, but the paper graphs never did catch on. It's like they've been around since the early '80s, but you never the entire lifespan that the paper graphs were around, nobody really did any good with them. They never dominated in the tournaments. Most people like David Fritz, all those good offshore fishermen, they still use flashers. And then you had, the 2D sonar came out in the '90s out there. That I didn't see, in my own opinion, I didn't see a lot of difference between the straight 2D sonar and the flasher. It basically still gave you a lot of the same information, maybe a little bit more detailed with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much stayed the same until you had the side imaging, which came out. When was that? Probably, what, God, 15 years ago now, probably close
With,
to it.
with side imaging?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
And and the side imaging, it opened up a new world, but still at the same time, it basically just showed you structure. I mean, you were just showing, you were being seeing structure that you could probably find on your own if you just fan cast around. I
Right.
remember I had one of the very first side scan units. I was down at Lake Wheeler in Alabama fishing a tournament, and I was with Humminbird. I was actually sponsored by Humminbird at the time, which would never happen again, I'm sure. But anyway, I had this side imaging, and out on those Decatur flats out there, you could see those stumps and those laydowns on the flat out there.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that I saw one to the side, I'd cast to it out there. I never really did use it that much as far as to help my fishing, and I still perceived it as not really crossing the line. But when we got into forward facing sonar and we really saw the potential and what it can do out there, where you have the ability to actually see fish in live time, live imaging, cast to that fish, see how that fish reacts to different lures and different presentations, and
Mm-hmm.
be able to adjust your lures by reading that fish, how it's reacting to that. At that point, I just said, that we just crossed the line. I said, when you can target a fish that you never ever would have known that was there before without that technology, and you can sort of coerce that fish into biting based upon what you're interpreting on a screen. I just thought that went over the line. Almost like, if Mark McGuire used an aluminum bat, or if, Kobe Bryant had some type of basketball shoe that would let him jump 3 feet higher in the air or something like that. I just felt that it created a path in the sport of fishing that was not good in the long term.
Gotcha. Okay, so let me ask you this. So this is kind of a quote that I want to read right here. Just want to make sure. So it's kind of a quote. It's kind of paraphrased. All right. So all right, here we go. All right. So there's the fish. The fish sees it. He's chasing my bait. He's chasing it fast. He's going to hit it. Boom, the hook set. So would you say that that is good or bad for fishing?
No, in the bigger picture, I just don't think it's good out there because, number one, once you've relegated fishing to every piece of information that you're getting on the water is what you're seeing through that screen there. You've taken away everything else, what fishing is about, as far as understanding seasonal patterns and movements of bass, and understanding casting angles and sunlight angles and current and wind positioning and mood and personality of the fish, and how seasonal patterns interact with all the different variables that are out there that make bass fishing the most difficult sport in the world. And I just think when you lose that, you lose so much of what fishing is really meant to be. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, sport fishing out there. I don't know if you saw that, the article I did, or the YouTube video I did a couple days ago on the whole Boone and Crockett deal, what they were talking about, why they eliminated technology for the records. Did you see that?
Right.
Well, they were just basically saying they didn't see any type of electronic technology in terms of hunting as fair chase for the game. And I just thought that was such a perfect analogy. It's sort of the same way. I don't see live imaging technology as fair chase in competitive fishing out there. I think it's an incredible tool. I think it would be great if it was just left in the hands of the fisheries managers and the the conservation departments out there to manage and watch fish populations. But I've just seen too many abuses of it. I've got over 25 different foreign countries on my YouTube channel, and I get comments and messages all the time from these guys in Australia and South Africa and in Europe talking about what livescope has done to the fisheries over there negatively. I just and we don't know where it's going to lead to is the thing about it. I know there's a lot of non-tournament anglers out there that are using it and getting good at it, and they don't turn them back. I mean, they put a knife to them. If they catch a limit of 15-inch bass down at Table Rock Lake, they get flayed out. Right. And I just think when you have the pressure coming in from all sides on a population of fish that were normally protected out in that open water, they had a sanctuary where they could escape from the bank pressure. Man, I don't see anything good coming out of it, man. I don't.
All right. And so the reason why I brought that up is, like I said, I was late to the forward facing sonar thing, but I always liked using electronics. So let me repeat it again. There's the fish. The fish sees it. He's chasing my bait. He's chasing it fast. He's going to hit it. Boom, the hook set. All right. So we were talking about forward facing sonar, but let me show you something real quick. And see that right. All right, so this is me out on the lake. This is before I don't even know when this was, but it was before I had forward facing sonar. I think forward facing sonar was out at this time, but the caption that I have on here, so this video is, let me see, I don't even know how long ago I recorded this, but 2D sonar, I can see the fish, I can see the structure, cover, I can definitely see the fish behavior, and I can definitely use it to catch more fish. Now let's just listen to the words that I read earlier and listen to what I say in this video that was before I had forward facing sonar. There is like a tree or some brush pile, or something down there. So when I drop this down there, watch that. Well, you can't see him now, he's not on the screen. But look, so you can see my bait going down. You see that line right there? Okay. And then it went down there into that red stuff. And that's the brush pile down there. See, there's the fish again. So watch. You see this line coming up right here? See, that fish sees it. See him going down? Okay. See him going, he's chasing my bait now. He's chasing it fast. That one's probably going to hit it because he chased it fast. All right, so that right there, I just wanted to, hold on just a second. All right, there we go. Just wanted to play that clip. So that is 2D sonar. Yeah. So when I was reading, it sounded like it was forward facing sonar, but that was 2D sonar. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because for me, whenever I first started hearing the arguments against forward facing sonar, that was the thing that I kept hearing people saying was like, you can see the fish, you can do this in real time, all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, they don't know that you can already do that with 2D sonar. You follow what I mean? So that was kind of the beginning part of me trying to grasp hearing the whenever people are saying that like that is a reason against it. Because for me, when I started hearing people say they were against that, I was like, well, why should we even have 2D sonar if it is at the professional level and it's supposed to be the tradition of fishing? And I guess the other part that I want to add is, for me, whenever I first started tournament fishing, I pretty much came from bank fishing to the almost instantly into the tournament fishing side of things, fishing as a co-angler. And so I began learning about a fish finder. When I first heard that word and saw it on somebody's boat, the first thing I said, well, isn't that cheating? Like, how can you have something called a fish finder on a boat when it's a tournament? I thought people were out here finding fish on their own. Then I learned about scents. I learned about rattles. Then I started learning all of these different aspects of tournament fishing. Whereas for me, when I would watch it, I was thinking that they weren't doing any of that stuff. I was thinking they were like me out there running, just going out there trying to find fish. But that's why I was bringing up about the progression. Like, each step of that is adding something to that person's, and it's taking away from that skill level, but it's adding something else to their arsenal. But yeah, I just wanted you to see that. And what do you think about that, being able to say the exact same thing with 2D sonar that you can say whenever you're watching fish on forward facing sonar?
Well, yeah, I've done the same thing, drop shotting with 2D sonar, Table Rock Lake, or even crappie fishing, but again, the difference in that is the fact that, okay, number one, if that was anything on the same level as forward facing sonar, then that technique of seeing fish on your 2D sonar would have been a dominant tournament technique for years, but it hasn't been. It basically hasn't played any factor at all, other than very occasionally when you're fishing for fish vertical. But you're underneath the boat. You have your gauge as far as seeing the fish is just your cone straight underneath the boat. You don't have that ability to scan all around the boat with multiple transducers out there. But the thing about that is, like, it all goes back to reaching that precipice. And while what you're saying is right on there, I mean, you can get more out of your traditional electronics than what a lot of people think they do. It still has not taken on the complete domination that we've seen with forward facing sonar. And that it would be different if, like, one tournament a year was won with forward facing sonar. But now forward facing sonar has become such a dominant influence in tournaments. It's not just for open water. There's guys winning tournaments on forward facing sonar for bedding fish. They're seeing fish bedding. They're seeing fish, in shallow cover. They're flipping and pitching flooded cover with forward facing sonar. It literally dominates every aspect of the water column now. And that just gets back to, like, everybody has their point of which, or they probably think it's too much. I would venture to say even the most hardcore forward facing sonar advocate, if you gave them some futuristic, example of what our sonar is going to be like that most people can't even comprehend in the future, at some point people are going to say, man, that's just too much. What are we doing here? And for me, and for a lot of people, not just me, for a lot of people, that forward facing sonar and the point of which it is advanced to right now has crossed that line.
Right. And see, I guess what I would say for me, whenever I first started fishing, whenever I heard the word fish finder in tournament, to me, it was crossing the line back then. You follow what I mean? Because whenever somebody told me I was a co-angler, just learning about the sport and learning about tournament fishing, when I heard fish finder and he had one on his boat, I was like, isn't that cheating? How do they let you use those? So I understand how you're saying there's certain steps where people are going to say, well, that's going too far. This is going too far.
I'll give you a little example here. It's like, people think that I'm like some dinosaur in electronics, but at one point I was like on the cutting edge of it. It's like myself and Gary Klein were like two of the first anglers out there that had multiple electronic units on our boat. At one point I had two flashers on the front of my boat and two flashers on the back of my boat, simply because if one broke down, I could, use another one. When GPS first came out, Gary and I would duct tape them to our legs, because the GPSs originally, they didn't even have any contour lines in it. All it showed was the lake, like a big bowl, and you could put a GPS waypoint, like if you happen to find something through triangulation, and you could get back to it.
Right.
So I was on the cutting edge of that, and I was fishing a lot of deep water back in the late 80s and early 90s. So I haven't always had this anti-tech stance, because I was very techie, at one time. But like I said, it just got to that point when after Patrick Walters won that tournament, and then the roof fell in, and literally every tournament's won on it. That's just where it got too much anymore. And anymore, it's like not just myself, but there's so many anglers out there that, like in the past, like Elite Series anglers, that every tournament that they went to, they knew if they got on the right little deal and they figured out the right little pattern, the right little bait, they could win the tournament. But
Right.
now that's not the case, because you know that every single tournament is going to get one forward facing sonar fishing. It's the same when the Alabama rig was legal. There was a period of about a year there where if you weren't throwing the Alabama rig, you weren't going to win the tournament. I mean, there was that time frame there. So from that standpoint, that's just the way it's evolved for me anyway.
Right. Yeah. And I hear the argument about the money side of things, of how they are putting all of the funding and everything into it. And of course, like I think you had given a scenario where if you paid them a certain amount to use, I can't remember what product you said, but if you well basically, let's just say if you paid them not to use it, but you paid them more than the electronics organizations or companies paid, then of course they would take that out, because from a business perspective, a business is there for their for that bottom line. They want the return on their investment basically, and whatever's going to give the best return, that's what they're going to aim to. So as far as a solution to that, the Turin Anglers Association, it seems like they may be taking a step in that direction. And I just saw that they actually have now launched. They've set a date, they've set the lake, and they're ready to go. Looks like all they're doing is waiting for Randy Blockett. They just need Randy Blockett to go ahead and sign up. I mean,
Man, I would if I just had the time. But I absolutely love that format with it. I mean, it's like I'm really happy they came out with that. I'm convinced, Bassmaster, they polled all their anglers and everything, and I don't know how much that I believe that or how much they even listen to it, but I'm pretty convinced that at some point Bassmaster is probably going to put some type of a limitation on it, in the terms of maybe they're going to have like 3 tournaments a year that forward facing sonar is allowed, 3 tournaments that's not allowed. I've heard a lot of talk about that, but there's simply too much opposition against it. And I really believe if you took like an anonymous survey of all the Bassmaster Elite guys and say, okay, nobody's going to know what your opinion is, this is completely, anonymous. Do you want forward facing sonar to be allowed in our tournaments or not? I'm convinced that the majority of the people would not go for it. I think the younger guys, they're 25% of them that's their game. They don't do anything else but that. But your guys like Greg Hackney and Matt Heron and guys that have been around for a while and have had a tremendous amount of success. Even Gerald Swindle. I mean, I'm speculating. I'm not speaking for these guys.
right.
But I think if they'd had their ruthers, they'd rather throw a swim jig up against some shallow grass or throw a buzzbait than weenie worm around out there in open water. I can't believe that they wouldn't rather have that if they had their preference.
Hey, why you gotta call it weenie worming? Why you gotta make? Why can't it be look? Why can't it be man worming?
Well, it's actually swim bait. There's probably more fish caught swim bait than forward facing sonar than anything.
Yeah, it's just fun whenever you're out there weenie worming. I'm like, hey man, you're making me feel bad over here. But yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. So and to me, I can see that side of it, to where the anglers that we've been watching, we want, and I kind of look at it as them having a superpower. So for me, like Kyle Welcher, for instance, I would rather see him out fishing a frog. I would rather see Hackney out with his jigs. I would rather see those people that technique that they're known for. That is what I would want to see them focusing on. So somebody so Kyle Welcher, he's been able to do the best of both worlds with it. But there's some people, to me, it's like if you even picture them being offshore using electronics, it just doesn't look right. You know what I mean? And some people may be the flip side of it, to see them fishing shallow throwing a certain bait. So it would be nice if there was a way to kind of let people still do the thing that they're known for and be competitive with that. But let's go back and take a look. I just want to bring this up on the screen real quick. So that Touring Anglers Association. So they put together that they have the date, which is April 1st through the 4th, and then they're gonna actually be at Lake Lanier. What about that? Lake Lanier, that's right out here where I'm at. So if listen, if I could get me a sponsor to slide in, to slide some funds in there, I'd be out there in a minute fishing for $300,000. And then what was the other thing? Okay, and then right here it says equipment restrictions. They're gonna have no live scope, meaning no forward facing sonar. Let me blow that up a little bit for everybody.
Where are their tournaments at? I can't remember all the lakes on there. Do they have it on there?
They just have one lake. So right now it's just kind of a concept. And to me, it seems like you should be the face of this tournament.
If they have one like it down here in Missouri, I'd probably fish it. I don't know if they've got their whole schedule out yet.
Yeah, so they only have one tournament. Basically, what they're saying is this is just the one tournament that they have set up. They don't necessarily even have additional ones in place. Okay. They're doing this one first to see if everything runs smoothly and how the turnout is and how it works. But this, to me, is exactly the format and everything that you have been speaking about.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, somebody needs to be sponsoring Randy Blaukat, because you have to go. Randy has to be there. How can they have this and not have Randy Blaukat there?
I would love to do that, man. It's just I think it's going to catch on. I mean, I really do. I think that would be a really good way to judge like the viewership from a Bassmaster perspective. If they did do 3 tournaments forward facing sonar, 3 without, and then from a viewership standpoint, see the difference on that.
Yeah. I mean, so it's going to be kind of interesting. I definitely want to see him pull it off. So what about as far as if you were to start your own little tournament circuit or tournament, even if it just starts off as a pot tournament or something like that, where people that are interested in the no forward facing sonar concept to start from somewhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me, why don't I start my own circuit? It's like, I don't have the time to do that or the money to do that. But yeah, that would be it. I would go all in with the old school, and I would probably put some type of horsepower limitations and boat size limitations, definitely electronic limitations. I'd if I was doing it and I had like a big financial backer with it, it'd be, you were limited to, 1 unit on the console, 1 up front, 2D sonar, down imaging, side imaging, GPS, no forward facing sonar. Simplify it like that. Try to get it sort of back, where it's sustainable financially for more people out there. Back the first year I started, a fully rigged, top of the line Ranger bass boat was like $14,000 back in 1985. And we're up over $100,000 right now.
Right. I've seen that.
The entry fees the first year on my circuit was $600 for the Bassmaster tournament trail. That was the top level, $600 entry. $5,000 now. So,
wow. Oh my! You know what? I forgot to do something. I have to put some respect on my viewers' names. I have to give a big shout out to the current sponsor of the live stream. I forgot about this part. So each week, whoever gives the largest super chat or super sticker, they are the sponsor of the stream. And right now, I want to give a big shout out to Cerebral Tackle. And actually, he is the one who sent this little piece of information to me. Yeah, so I got it from one of my subscribers. So big shout out to Cerebral Tackle.
I have no idea how you even found that. I didn't think those even existed anymore.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if Randy has his own copy of that.
I've got one, but it's I've had it since 92 when we did the article.
Gotcha. All right. So yeah, so definitely want to give a big shout out to CT, and also anybody interested in becoming a member of the channel, just click the join button below and it will give you some information about some of the perks that come along with that. One of which you will see the guys that have the badge next to their name. Those are the members of the channel and the people that I refer to as the money team. So wanted to add that in there real quick. I forgot to chime in and let the guys know about that. All right. So yeah, I mean, to me, the no forward facing sonar aspect of it, I think there's a format that can be created that will be interesting for the viewer. And I think it could kind of catch on, but they need a face, Randy. You got to hop in there. You have to do it, Randy. So I'll tell you what, I will start working on something, and then I will kind of keep you updated on the progress. And maybe you can just hop in every now and then and just just say a little something for
Okay.
your people to support your people that are, into it.
Oh yeah,
What do you think?
I'd absolutely love that concept of somebody that started that. They're way ahead of their time with that.
All right, so your partner MoneyBass may be the one to do it. So we'll see. Look, even though I'm an electronics guy, I mean, I don't have a problem with hopping from here to there. We can test it out and see how it works. All right, so this is the next question. Now, this question right here. Let's see what you think about this one. Would you ever fish against Ben Milliken in a no electronics tournament? It would be a one-on-one head-to-head.
I don't mind fishing against him at all, but I don't think I could be around the guy. That guy to me, he's just the most disrespectful, obnoxious, self-absorbed dude I have ever seen in my life. So it's not that I have any problem fishing against him as long as I didn't have to be around him, something like that.
Well, when you're
Yeah.
fishing, you wouldn't necessarily. I mean, you could do separate way. Maybe you just be live on the water weigh-ins or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'll fish against anybody because that's the thing about bass fishing. It's like anybody can beat anybody on a certain given day. I mean, you could take Kevin Van Dam and his co-angler could beat him out of the back of the boat on any given day. It's just all about right place at the right time, right technique.
Uh-oh, okay. And look, I think the fans want to see it. They said you can beat the brakes off of him. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And one other thing real quick, I forgot to add my poll in here. So that's another thing that I'd like to do is make sure I keep these interactive. So first, let me see. I did have a few poll questions that I wanted to put in here real quick. And this is just to kind of gauge the room to see who are the viewers and who's watching right now. So I'm just going to drop a quick poll in here, guys. And what you'll do is just you'll see it in the chat. So you can just hop in there and just place your vote. But this first one is let's just put, are you for or against? Before we move away from that topic, just want to put this in here real quick. But are you for or against? Let's just keep it simple and say live scope. But of course, we mean forward facing sonar. So whether it's mega live, active target, or live scope, and we'll keep that simple and we'll just go with a yes and a no. So that way, to kind of gauge the room and see what kind of responses we should be seeing in the chat. And then, of course, guys, I am going to drop the link shortly and bring you up for a question answer scenario. So you guys can ask him some questions yourself. All right. So that poll is live and active. And of course, this is just to gauge the room, gauge the guys that are in the chat to see, what you guys are thinking. So the poll is active. So everybody go ahead and start voting on that. And also, guys, please hit the like button. You got to hit the like button for me. Just go ahead and set the hook on it real quick. Doesn't really take that much time, but it really does help the channel out. All right. So what we were talking about was, would you fish against Ben Milliken? Your answer was yes, you would. You'd fish against anybody. So if you were to do that, it would be a no forward facing, no live imaging, dual battle head to head. What would be the 3 lakes? Like if you were to pick the lake, what lakes would you pick for that?
If I was going to pick them for my own benefit,
right? Yeah. So basically, if you pick 3 lakes and he picked 3 lakes, and then if any of those lakes intersected, then that would end up being the lake.
Okay. Well, I'll fish anywhere, but my 3 would be probably Lake Mead in Nevada. Obviously, that's my favorite lake out there.
All right.
Second one would probably be a lot of it depends on the time of the year too. I mean, as far as because if we could pick the time of year, I'd know a lot better on that.
All right, so let's say when fishing season is hot and everybody's into fishing, it kind of slows down when things get cold. So let's say things are warming up. Let's say, and let's make it not a spawn or bed fishing type thing. Okay. So what month would that be? April, May, so maybe June. Would that be
Yeah. Okay, I'll go with Lake Mead, the Atchafalaya Basin, and Mobile Delta would be my 3.
All right. All right. And so the other part, now we're talking about the money part. What should the winning pot be? So let's say if you just got money just for showing up. Let's say if like, hey, Randy, we'll give you 5. No, we'll give you 10 just to show up. So that you get 10 just for showing up. But now there's going to be an additional pot for the winner.
Okay, the pot would definitely be, if I won, then Ben would not be allowed to use livescope in tournaments. And if he wins, I will put a livescope on my boat.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wait a minute. Hold on. We need to repeat that one. So you said if you win, what is it again?
If I win, he is not allowed to use forward-facing sonar on the Bassmaster Elite Series. And if he wins, I'll put a livescope on my boat.
Ah, come on, man. That's not
have like a legally binding contract under the penalty of fines or something.
Oh man, that's not right. That's not right. But everybody else he's fishing against is gonna have it. So we're kneecapping him for the whole season. All right.
If he's confident he can beat me, he shouldn't have anything to worry about. Then if I hadn't caught a fish since 1982, he's got nothing to worry about.
So you're saying you wouldn't even worry about, like, if it was like a $10,000 pot or a $20,000. You're just saying that he would have to take it off of his boat,
right?
This is the end of part 1, but you definitely want to watch part 2, where we go into some deep conversations about some hot topics that you don't want to miss. The link is in the description.